I want you to consider something that most people dismiss too quickly. There are moments in life when a message, a person, an idea, or even a simple sentence arrives at precisely the right time. The rational mind calls it an accident. It says, "This is merely chance. It means nothing." But I have spent much of my life studying the hidden movements of the human soul, and I have learned that not everything that appears random truly is. You are listening to these words right now, and perhaps you feel that something brought you here. Perhaps there is a strange sensation within you, a feeling that these words are somehow speaking directly to your circumstances, directly to your heart. If that feeling exists, do not dismiss it too quickly. The psyche often communicates in ways that the conscious mind struggles to understand. It does not always announce change with thunder or dramatic events. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it sends symbols, impressions, recurring thoughts, or meaningful coincidences that seem too perfectly timed to ignore. I have seen many people stand on the threshold of great transformation without realizing it. They believed they were lost when in truth they were being prepared. They believed their confusion was a sign of failure when it was actually the beginning of a deeper awakening. There are periods in life when something inside of you begins to shift before anything in your external world has changed. You cannot explain it. You simply feel different. Old ambitions no longer satisfy you. Certain conversations seem empty. The things that once gave you comfort no longer hold the same meaning. This inner movement can be unsettling because the conscious mind always seeks certainty. It wants clear answers and predictable outcomes. But transformation rarely begins with certainty. It begins with a feeling, a subtle awareness that something is ending and something else is trying to emerge. Perhaps over the last few days or weeks, you have experienced unusual moments of reflection. Perhaps you have found yourself questioning the direction of your life. Perhaps imagery have resurfaced for no apparent reason. Perhaps you have felt an increasing sense that you cannot continue being the person you once were. These experiences are not meaningless. They are often signs that your inner world is preparing for a profound change. I want you to understand something important. The greatest transformations do not begin in the outer world. They begin in the unseen regions of the soul. Long before circumstances change, something within you begins rearranging itself. Your values shift. Your desires change. Your understanding deepens. And because this process occurs quietly, many people fail to recognize it. They wait for some dramatic event to tell them that their new life has arrived. They expect change to announce itself with certainty and clarity. But true change often approaches softly. It comes as a growing intuition that you are standing at the edge of something new. It comes as an unexplained pull toward a different way of living. It comes as a feeling that your current life can no longer contain the person you are becoming. This is why moments like these are so important. They invite you to pause and pay attention. They ask you to become aware of the subtle movements taking place within your own psyche. There are times when a person encounters a message at the exact moment they are ready to hear it. Not because the message itself is magical, but because something inside them has finally become prepared to receive it. Perhaps that is why you are here now. Perhaps some deeper part of you has been waiting for this moment. Perhaps your soul already senses what your conscious mind has not yet fully understood. That your life is approaching a turning point. I do not ask you to believe in fate without question. I ask only that you become attentive. Observe your thoughts. Notice your feelings. Pay attention to the strange sense that something significant is unfolding. Because when the soul begins to awaken to a new possibility, it often sends a signal before the change itself arrives. And sometimes, the first sign that your life is about to change is the undeniable feeling that this message found you exactly when it was supposed to. Now, if something within you has indeed begun to awaken, there is another truth you must understand. Transformation rarely feels comfortable. In fact, some of the most important changes in your life begin with a strange sense of unease. You may have noticed it already, a restlessness that follows you even in quiet moments. A feeling that something is missing, even when everything appears to be in its proper place. An exhaustion that sleep cannot cure. A sense that you no longer fit inside the life you have been living. Most people interpret these feelings as problems to be fixed. They try to silence them. They distract themselves. They become busier, seek more entertainment, or convince themselves that nothing is wrong. But what if nothing is wrong? What if this discomfort is not a sign that your life is falling apart, but a sign that something new is trying to emerge? The human soul has a remarkable ability to outgrow its former identity. There comes a time when the person you once needed to be can no longer carry you into the future. The beliefs that once protected you begin to feel limiting. The routines that once gave you security begin to feel like chains. And because the old self resists its own ending, you experience tension. This tension can feel confusing. You may question yourself. You may wonder why you suddenly feel dissatisfied with things that once brought you happiness. You may ask why certain relationships feel different, why your interests are changing, or why seem to be withdrawing from old patterns. Do not be afraid of these questions. The soul often creates discomfort when it is trying to move you toward a deeper truth. Imagine a seed buried beneath the earth. Before it becomes a tree, it must first break apart. From the outside, that breaking appears destructive. Yet, it is the very condition necessary for growth. Human transformation follows the same principle. Before you become who you are meant to be, something within you must break open. This is why periods of inner discomfort often precede great changes. You are not simply becoming unhappy. You are becoming aware. You are beginning to sense that there is more within you than your current life allows you to express. And awareness can be painful. Because once you see that your soul desires something deeper, you can no longer return completely to who you once were. Perhaps this explains why you have felt different recently. Perhaps there are dreams you can no longer ignore. Perhaps there are parts of yourself that are asking to be acknowledged. Perhaps you have been feeling a quiet pull toward change without fully understanding where it is leading. The conscious mind demands immediate answers. It wants certainty. It wants a clear map. But the soul works differently. It often leads you through uncertainty first. It creates questions before it gives answers. It creates tension before it brings clarity. And so, when you feel restless, do not assume that you are lost. When you feel emotionally exhausted, do not assume that you are broken. When you feel disconnected from your old life, do not assume that you have failed. There are moments in life when discomfort is not a warning to turn back. It is an invitation to move forward. Many people spend years trying to escape this feeling, because they mistake transformation for suffering. They cling to old identities because they fear the unknown. They remain in familiar patterns because uncertainty seems dangerous. Yet the greatest tragedy is not change. The greatest tragedy is refusing to change when the soul is asking for growth. Every meaningful transformation requires courage. It requires a willingness to sit with discomfort and ask, what is this feeling trying to teach me? Because hidden inside your restlessness may be the beginning of your next chapter. Hidden inside your confusion may be a deeper understanding of who you truly are. Hidden inside your dissatisfaction may be the first signs that your old life is no longer capable of containing your future. You may not yet understand what is changing. You may not see where this path is leading, but if you have been feeling unsettled, restless, or strangely disconnected from the life you once knew, consider the possibility that these feelings are not your enemy. They may be evidence that your soul has already begun moving toward a life you cannot yet imagine. And sometimes, the first proof that your life is changing is the uncomfortable feeling that you can no longer remain the person you used to be. If you have begun to feel that you can no longer remain the person you once were, then another realization awaits you, one that many people resist with all their strength. The life you once knew may already be coming to an end. I do not mean the end of your existence, nor do I speak only of dramatic external events. I speak of something far deeper. I speak of the quiet ending of an identity, of old beliefs, of familiar patterns, and of a version of yourself that has fulfilled its purpose. There are seasons in every life that cannot continue forever, yet human beings often cling to these seasons long after they have ended. We hold on to old dreams, old relationships, old definitions of ourselves because they are familiar. Even when they no longer nourish us, we keep them alive because they once gave us meaning. But life demands movement. The soul demands growth. And growth often begins with an ending. This is one of the great mysteries of transformation. Before anything new can enter your life, something old must first make room for it. Before a new identity is born, an old identity must loosen its grip. This process can feel unsettling because endings rarely announce themselves clearly. They arrive quietly. One day you realize that the conversations you once enjoyed no longer inspire you. You notice that certain ambitions no longer excite you. You begin to outgrow places that once felt like home. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you understand that something has changed within you. At first, many people fight this realization. They attempt to return to who they used to be. They recreate old habits and revisit old desires, hoping to recover a sense of certainty. But the soul has already moved forward. And once the inner world has changed, the outer world eventually follows. This is why some of the most painful experiences in life occur during periods of transition. You find yourself standing between two versions of yourself. The old one is fading, yet the new one has not fully emerged. It is a lonely place. You may feel uncertain. You may question your purpose. You may wonder why everything that once seemed clear has become confusing. But understand this. Confusion often appears when an old way of living is ending, and a new way of being has not yet taken shape. You are not lost. You are in the space between endings and beginnings. Consider the natural world. Every season has its purpose. Autumn does not mourn the falling leaves. Winter does not resist the death of summer. Nature understands that every ending is part of a larger cycle of renewal. Only human beings try to hold on to what life is asking them to release. You may already sense what needs to be released. Perhaps it is an old fear. Perhaps it is a belief that you are not worthy of more. Perhaps it is a role you have been playing for so long that you have forgotten who you truly are. Perhaps it is a relationship that belongs to a previous chapter of your life. Whatever it may be, the soul often whispers before it shouts. It gently shows you what no longer belongs in your future. And if you ignore these whispers, life eventually creates circumstances that force you to pay attention. This is why some endings arrive unexpectedly. A door closes. A plan fails. A relationship changes. An opportunity disappears. In those moments, it is easy to believe that life is working against you. But often, life is simply removing what no longer aligns with the person you are becoming. The tragedy is not that things end. The tragedy is refusing to let them end, because every ending carries within it the seed of a new beginning. The person you are becoming cannot emerge while you continue clinging to the person you have outgrown. Transformation asks for courage, the courage to release what is familiar and step into what is unknown. And I know this is difficult. The unknown has always frightened the human mind. It prefers certainty, even if that certainty brings unhappiness. Yet your deepest growth will never be found in what is already known. It waits beyond the boundaries of your old identity. It waits on the other side of surrender. So, if you feel that your old life is slipping away, if familiar things no longer feel the same, if you sense that an invisible chapter is closing, do not panic. You are not losing yourself. You are making space for the person you were always meant to become. And sometimes, the greatest sign that your future is approaching is the quiet realization that your old life can no longer follow you there. When an old chapter begins to close, and you find yourself standing between who you were and who you are becoming, something extraordinary often happens. The deeper parts of your mind begin to speak. Most people believe that guidance comes only from the outside world. They search for answers in other people, in circumstances, and in the approval of society. Yet some of the most important messages you will ever receive arise from within. The human soul is not silent. It is constantly communicating. The problem is not that the messages are absent. The problem is that most people have forgotten how to listen. There are moments in life when certain thoughts return again and again. A particular idea keeps appearing in your mind. A memory resurfaces for no apparent reason. You begin having vivid dreams that leave an emotional impression long after you awaken. You encounter the same symbol repeatedly, hear the same message from different sources, or feel an unexplainable pull toward a certain direction. The rational mind often dismisses these experiences as coincidence. It demands proof and certainty. It wants every event to have a logical explanation. But the soul does not communicate through logic alone. It speaks through symbols. It speaks through feelings. It speaks through images and intuitions that cannot always be explained with words. Have you ever had the feeling that you knew something before it happened? Have you ever met someone and immediately sensed that this encounter would be important? Have you ever felt an inner resistance toward a path that looked perfect on the outside, or an irresistible attraction towards something that made no logical sense? These moments are significant because they reveal that there is more within you than your conscious thoughts. There is a deeper intelligence operating beneath the surface of ordinary awareness, and during periods of transformation, this deeper intelligence becomes more active. Why? Because when your life is preparing to change, your inner world begins guiding you toward that change, before your outer circumstances can confirm it. This is why many people experience unusual dreams or powerful intuitions before major turning points in life. Something inside them already knows that a new chapter is approaching. Yet most people ignore these signals. They dismiss their intuition because it does not sound practical. They ignore their dreams because they appear strange. They overlook meaningful coincidences because they fear appearing irrational. In doing so, they silence one of the most profound sources of wisdom available to them. I am not suggesting that every random event carries a hidden message. I am saying that there are moments when certain experiences seem to possess an unusual sense of meaning. They touch something deep within you. They awaken your attention. They refuse to be forgotten. When this happens, pause. Pay attention. Ask yourself why this particular image, idea, or experience has stirred something inside you. Because the symbols that appear in your life often point toward truths that your conscious mind has not yet fully recognized. Perhaps a recurring dream is asking you to release an old fear. Perhaps an unexpected encounter is reminding you of a forgotten possibility. Perhaps an intuition is encouraging you to step toward a future that your rational mind still doubts. The deeper layers of the psyche often know what is necessary for your growth, long before your conscious mind accepts it. This is why listening to yourself is so important during times of change. The modern world teaches people to distrust their inner experience. It tells them that only external facts matter. But if you ignore your inner world completely, you risk becoming a stranger to your own soul. And when you become disconnected from your inner guidance, you often feel lost, even when everything around you appears successful. The opposite is also true. When you begin listening to the quiet movements within yourself, a strange sense of direction begins to emerge. You may not know every detail of your future. You may not understand exactly where life is leading you, but you begin to sense that there is meaning in your experiences, purpose in your struggles, and wisdom hidden within your own depths. This awareness changes everything. You stop seeing life as a series of random events. You begin to understand that even your confusion may contain guidance. Even your uncertainty may carry a message. Even your moments of discomfort may be directing you toward a greater version of yourself. So I ask you to become more attentive. Notice the dreams that linger. Notice the ideas that refuse to leave you. Notice the unusual coincidences that awaken something within. Notice the quiet voice that keeps urging you toward change. Because when your life is preparing to transform, the soul often sends signals before the new chapter arrives. And sometimes the future first appears as a whisper that only your deepest self can hear. If you have begun to notice these whispers from your inner world, if old parts of your life are fading and new possibilities are quietly emerging, then you are standing before one of the greatest tasks a human being can undertake. You are being called to become who you truly are. This may sound simple, but it is perhaps the most difficult journey in life. Most people spend years becoming what others expect them to be. They wear masks to gain acceptance. They shape their personalities to avoid rejection. They follow paths that promise security rather than meaning. Little by little, they move further away from themselves. Then one day, something inside them awakens. A question arises that can no longer be ignored. Is this really who I am? This question is both frightening and sacred because it marks the beginning of transformation. The world often teaches you to seek success, status, and approval. It tells you that happiness can be found by becoming more of what others want you to be. Yet the soul seeks something entirely different. The soul seeks wholeness. It longs for authenticity. It desires to express the deepest truths hidden within you. This is why there are moments when you suddenly feel dissatisfied with a life that seems perfectly acceptable from the outside. Everything may appear fine, and yet something within you remains restless. That restlessness is important. It is the quiet voice of your deeper self, saying, "There is more to you than this." Many people fear this voice because listening to it often requires change. It may ask you to release an identity that no longer fits. It may ask you to let go of beliefs that have defined you for years. It may ask you to stop pretending to be someone you are not. And this can feel dangerous because the familiar, even when it makes us unhappy, gives us a sense of safety. But there comes a time when remaining the same becomes more painful than changing. Perhaps you have already reached that point. Perhaps you feel a growing desire to live more honestly. Perhaps you are beginning to care less about the expectations of others and more about the truth of your own soul. Perhaps you are discovering gifts, dreams, or desires that have been hidden for years. If this is happening, do not resist it. Something important is taking place within you. The person you have been is not disappearing without purpose. You are being invited into a fuller expression of yourself. This process is not about becoming someone entirely new. It is about uncovering what has always been there. Think of a sculpture hidden inside a block of stone. The artist does not create the figure from nothing. He removes everything that does not belong until the true form is revealed. Transformation works in the same way. You do not become whole by adding more masks. You become whole by removing what is false. You let go of the fears that keep you small. You release the identities that no longer serve you. You stop living according to the expectations that were never truly yours. And, little by little, your authentic self begins to emerge. This process requires courage because authenticity always carries a price. Not everyone will understand your changes. Some people only know the version of you that you are leaving behind. Some relationships may shift. Certain opportunities disappear. At times, you may even feel alone. But loneliness is often part of becoming yourself. You are stepping away from old patterns and moving toward a deeper truth. And not everyone can walk that path with you. Yet there is something far more painful than loneliness. It is spending your entire life betraying your own soul. To ignore your deeper calling is to live divided against yourself. To silence your true nature is to carry a quiet emptiness that no amount of external success can fill. The world does not need another imitation. It does not need another person hiding behind fear. It needs individuals who have the courage to become who they truly are. And perhaps this is why your life feels as though it is changing. Perhaps this is why old chapters are ending. Perhaps this is why your inner world has become so active. Because the future that is calling you cannot be lived by the person you have been pretending to be. It requires your honesty. It requires your courage. It requires your true self. The transformation before you is not simply about changing your circumstances. It is about becoming the person you were always meant to become. And the greatest turning point in your life begins the moment you stop asking who the world wants you to be and start asking who you truly are. As you begin to become more authentic, as you slowly step into the person you were meant to be, there is another truth that you must prepare yourself to understand. The moments that feel the most chaotic are often the moments that are preparing you for your greatest transformation. This is difficult to accept because the human mind prefers order. It wants life to move in straight lines. It wants every effort to produce immediate results and every question to have a clear answer. But the deepest changes in life rarely happen in an orderly fashion. They often begin with confusion. They begin with uncertainty. They begin with the feeling that everything you once relied upon is suddenly shifting beneath your feet. Perhaps you have experienced this already. A plan that once seemed certain has fallen apart. A door you desperately wanted to open has remained closed. A relationship has changed unexpectedly. Opportunities have disappeared, and the future that once appeared clear has become difficult to recognize. In these moments, it is easy to believe that life is working against you. It is easy to believe that you have made a mistake or that you have somehow lost your way. But I invite you to consider another possibility. What if this chaos is not destruction? What if it is preparation? Consider how nature works. Before a forest can renew itself, old growth must decay. Before a seed becomes a tree, it must disappear into darkness and break apart. Before dawn arrives, the night reaches its deepest point. Transformation follows the same mysterious pattern. There are periods in life when everything appears to be falling apart because something deeper is reorganizing itself. The old structures of your life may no longer be capable of supporting the person you are becoming. The beliefs you once held may no longer be large enough for your expanding understanding. The paths you once desired may no longer align with your deeper purpose. And so life begins removing, rearranging, and reshaping. To the conscious mind, this feels like chaos. To the soul, it is preparation. This is why some of the most important periods of growth are also the most uncomfortable. You are being asked to trust a process that you cannot fully see. You are being asked to move forward without complete certainty. You are being asked to surrender the illusion that you must understand everything before you can continue. This requires courage. Most people try to escape uncertainty as quickly as possible. They rush to replace what has been lost. They cling to old identities and familiar patterns because they fear the empty space that change creates. But that empty space has a purpose. It is the place where something new can emerge. If your life remained exactly as it was, there would be no room for transformation. If every door stayed open, you would never discover which paths truly belong to you. If everything happened according to your original plans, you might never become the person your soul is asking you to become. Sometimes, the very things you consider setbacks are actually redirections. Sometimes delays are protection. Sometimes endings are invitations. And sometimes chaos is simply the process through which a new life is being prepared. I know how difficult this is to accept while you are living through it. When everything feels uncertain, the mind imagines the worst. It fears that the confusion will last forever. It believes that because it cannot see the future, there must be no future at all. But this is an illusion. Life often does its most important work in the unseen. The roots of a tree grow in darkness. A child develops in the hidden world of the womb. Even the greatest ideas begin quietly, in places where no one can see them. Why should your transformation be any different? There may be things happening within you right now that you do not yet understand. You may be developing strengths you never knew you possessed. You may be gaining wisdom through your struggles. You may be preparing for opportunities that your present mind cannot yet imagine. This is why patience is so important during seasons of uncertainty. Not passive waiting, but patient trust. Trust that your confusion has meaning. Trust that your struggles are shaping you. Trust that even in moments when nothing seems to make sense, something profound may be taking place beneath the surface. Because the soul often works in silence. It rearranges your inner world long before your outer circumstances begin to change. And when the new chapter finally arrives, you will look back and realize that what felt like chaos was actually preparation. You will understand that nothing was falling apart. Everything was being rearranged so that you could become who you were always meant to be. And sometimes the clearest sign that your life is about to change is the moment when everything you thought you understood begins to come undone. And now we arrive at the truth that all of these experiences have been preparing you to understand. Your life is about to change in ways you cannot imagine. I do not say this as a promise of instant success or a guarantee that every desire will immediately come to pass. I say it because the deepest transformations in human life rarely arrive in the form we expect. The mind is limited by what it already knows. It tries to imagine the future by rearranging pieces of the past. It takes old experiences and projects them forward, believing that tomorrow will simply be another version of yesterday. But genuine transformation does not work this way. The most meaningful changes often emerge from places you never considered, through opportunities you never anticipated, and by paths you would never have chosen for yourself. If someone had told you years ago that you would become the person you are today, would you have believed them? Probably not. Life has already changed you in ways your former self could never have imagined. The struggles you endured gave you strength. The disappointments you experienced gave you wisdom. The losses you suffered taught you what truly matters. And the person sitting here now is the result of countless changes that once seemed impossible. Why, then, do you doubt that even greater changes are still ahead? There is a tendency within all of us to believe that our current circumstances are permanent. When we are struggling, we believe we will always struggle. When we are uncertain, we believe clarity will never come. Yet life continually proves otherwise. Nothing remains fixed. Everything moves. Everything changes. The person you are today is not the final version of yourself. There are qualities within you that have not yet awakened. There is courage within you that has not yet been tested. There is wisdom within you that has not yet been discovered. And there are possibilities waiting for you that your present mind cannot fully comprehend. This is why I ask you not to become too attached to your current understanding of what your future should look like. The soul often has a larger vision than the conscious mind. You may think that you know exactly what you need exactly where you should go, exactly how your life should unfold. And then life surprises you. A chance encounter changes everything. A new idea awakens a hidden passion. A closed door leads you toward a path you would never have considered. An unexpected ending becomes the beginning of your greatest chapter. When you look back, you often realize that what seemed like obstacles were actually invitations to something greater. This is the mystery of transformation. You do not have to see the entire path to begin walking it. You do not have to understand every step before taking the next one. There is a wisdom in life that exceeds the plans of the conscious mind. The task before you is not to control every outcome. The task is to remain awake, remain attentive to the movements of your soul, remain open to unexpected possibilities, remain willing to let go of what no longer serves you, remain courageous enough to enter the unknown. Because the unknown is not merely a place of danger, it is also the birthplace of every new beginning. Everything meaningful in your life once existed in the realm of uncertainty. Every friendship, every opportunity, every lesson, every transformation first appeared as something you could not predict. And so I say to you, do not fear the future simply because you cannot imagine it. Your imagination is limited by your present experience. Life is not. There are chapters ahead of you that will make sense of your present struggles. There are experiences waiting for you that will reveal why certain things had to end. There are parts of yourself that you have not yet met. The person you are becoming is still unfolding. Perhaps that is why you have been feeling restless. Perhaps that is why your old life no longer fits. Perhaps that is why strange coincidences, inner whispers, and unexpected changes have been appearing in your path. Something within you already knows that a new chapter is approaching. And while your conscious mind seeks certainty, your deeper self is quietly preparing to step into a life that exceeds your current understanding. So do not cling too tightly to who you have been. Do not limit your future by the boundaries of your present imagination. Trust the process of your becoming. Trust the quiet work taking place within you. Trust that even now, unseen possibilities are moving toward you. Because the most extraordinary transformations begin long before you can see them, and one day you will look back and realize that your life changed in ways you never could have imagined, because you finally had the courage to become who you truly are.